Senegalese lawmakers have voted to delay this month's presidential election up until December. Now, the bill was passed with 105 votes in favour and 1 against after opposition members were forcibly removed from the chamber. This paves the way for President Macky Sall to remain in office until his successor is installed. Opposition leaders say the proposed delay amounts to a constitutional coup.
L'Assemblée nationale, le président de la République ne peuvent pas reporter une élection présidentielle. Seul le Conseil constitutionnel peut reporter une élection présidentielle et même ce report-là est très encadré. Donc ce qui nous réunit ici est tout simplement anticonstitutionnel. C'est pourquoi je dis qu'aujourd'hui nous assistons à une tentative de fomenter un coup d'État constitutionnel.
Protests erupted after Parliament voted on the election day delay. I'm joined now by Dr. Rama Salla Dieng, a political scientist and lecturer at the University of Edinburgh, and Felicia Athonio, a campaign manager at Access Now. A very good afternoon to you both. Thank you so much for joining us. Perhaps let's really just talk about the announcement of this delay. It has since offset a chain of events in Senegal. Felicia, perhaps let's get your reaction first, the impact and your observation on what we've seen since this announcement was made.
Thank you so much for having me. And indeed, it was a shock to all of us, human rights activists, that the president of Senegal decided to postpone elections indefinitely. Especially because there's been rumors of possibility of him extending his term. And so it was really surprising to see that this actually has been implemented unconstitutionally, as the opposition have described it. And shockingly, we also saw the government trying to impose internet shutdowns to quell protests and to also silence dissent. 2 days after the announcement was made, of course, the people of Senegal are not happy with the decision, and postponing elections is a big deal for people's constitutional rights, and so they have the right to defend their rights by protesting and speaking up against this decision by President Macky Sall. And unfortunately, the government has imposed internet shutdowns. Currently, mobile internet shutdowns have been disrupted since yesterday, and the Ministry of Telecommunications is the one that issued the order to disrupt internet access. And this is not the first time we are seeing this act of repression being used by the Senegalese authorities.
Unfortunately, your line is not so clear, Felicia. Perhaps let me pose this question to Dr. Dieng. Dr. Dieng, as we listen to what Felicia's had to say, she speaks about internet access being barred, and of course, just perhaps let's start off with your assessment of how this process has been handled by Parliament.
Thank you so much for having me. I think I will totally agree with Felicia, because what is currently happening is not happening in the vacuum. There had been several signs, signals that this may happen, that the president may indeed postpone the presidential elections, but we were just hoping that this would not be the case. So on Saturday, when he went live on TV to announce that, without ever naming it, in a very cryptic message, that the elections may be postponed because of using a rhetoric of crisis, talking about the supposed corruption of judges on the Constitutional Court, talking about the dual nationality of 2 presidential candidates, Rose Wardini and Karim Wade, which has created a lot of debates, and using that as an argument to say that the elections could not go forward as planned. This was the first step of people reacting in the streets. There had been many incidents recorded over the weekend, and yesterday the parliament was blocked by members of the parliament, but even outside there had been some movement. People were really discontent, and I think it is totally legitimate because these elections cannot be postponed. It is what we are witnessing right now is anti-constitutional, and it is not just when I was saying that it's not happening in the vacuum. There has been several incidents over the past 2 years starting in May 2021, when several young protesters have been killed in the streets of Dakar. In June and May 2023 as well, we have had at least 30 more young activists or young citizens protesting that have been killed by the police. So this is really the, let's say, the summum of what we have seen happening, but we were really hoping this would not, the President Macky Sall would not dare to cross this, this. I'm even grasping for my words.
Yeah. But perhaps, as we try and get a better understanding from you, we know that President Sall has said that the reason that this vote needs to be delayed is because of a dispute between the National Assembly and the Constitutional Court over the rejection of candidates, and also just blaming the delay because of the decision by the Concord to exclude Karim Wade, who's the son of the former president, from running for presidency. Opposition parties are clearly not happy with this. They're calling it a constitutional coup. How much merit is there to Sall's excuse or reasoning and justification of this delay?
It is an excuse indeed, because Karim Wade was already excluded. So there is no debating his situation. He was guilty of not taking the necessary steps to make sure he's eligible. He's an eligible candidate. Only 1 month before, or a few weeks before the list of candidates were to be confirmed, did Karim Wade request to renounce his French citizenship. So in Senegal, you cannot run if you are a binational. So Karim Wade's case was never a reason for cancelling the presidential election. What we have seen is the case of another candidate, Rose Wardini, who, despite being a supposed binational, France and Senegal, had her candidacy accepted, confirmed. So the other candidates, the other presidential candidates who were rejected, such as the former Prime Minister Aminata Touré, Mimi Touré, Thierno Alassane Sall, and many others, made the case that her case should also be a cause for concern. So, and even in that case, the Constitution has provision for her to be just, excluded as a candidate, or even, convicted of perjury. But this has never been a reason for postponing the elections. What people have been saying, analysts like myself have been observing, is that Macky Sall have tried all attempts, all means necessary to just run for a third candidacy. And when he saw that the Senegalese citizens would not let him do that, he used this as an excuse to really to postpone the election. We were thinking, we saw in the news that it would be for 6 months until the summer. And then, to our surprise, we saw it would be 15th of December. But what we need to be clear on right now is that there had been several supputations, suppositions that it is an internal conflict within the majority party. So the president's party, he doesn't trust his own candidate, the current Prime Minister, Amadou Ba, to win the elections. And that's the reason why he's trying to gain some time in order to find another candidate. So delaying the whole process because there is no consensus within his own party is just fallacious. It's just unseen. We've never had such a case. And seeing the ECOWAS, regional economic communities such as the ECOWAS, which we are part of, not condemning, barely condemning, but saluting Macky Sall's resolution or a reiteration that he will not be a candidate. It's just it's just unacceptable in my view.
Absolutely.
And the fact that the president of the ECOWAS was just in France a few days before, he was in Paris for a private visit, has had some analysts say, is this yet again another decision from the metropole, from our former colonizer? So there are many dynamics at play here. But the Senegalese citizens are clear. This is not acceptable, and right now we are waiting on the Constitutional Court to decide, because they are the last rampart against what is being done right now.
Let me cross to Felicia. Felicia, as Senegalese people wait for the Constitutional Court to chart a way forward, you touched on something very important just before we were cut off, speaking about how there's been an internet shutdown and many users in the capital saying that they're unable to access mobile data on their phones. But of course we know it's not the first time something like this has happened in efforts to, amid the high tensions. We also saw this happening in June last year. What's happening at the moment? I mean, is there still access? I know that another way to really suppress the talks around what's happening and the tensions in the country was the suspension of signal of a television station. Is it getting to that level? How are you handling the internet usage as you and I speak?
So since yesterday, the Senegalese people have been digitally cut off on their mobile phones. And we all know that several or a majority of people in the global majority rely on their mobile phones to access the internet. And so this is close to a complete internet blackout because several millions of Senegalese would not be able to access the internet as easily as they would if the internet access was not disrupted. And this is the case we always see. Governments tend to use internet shutdowns as an escape in tackling the root causes of crisis in their countries. And so in the case of Senegal, elections have been postponed. The people are resistant and saying, no, this is unconstitutional. And what do we see? That 2 days after, the government is shutting down internet access to further silence voices and prevent them from speaking up, and even preventing the international community from having access to information with regards to what is happening on the ground. And this isn't the first time, and this is a strategy that the Senegalese authorities have used. Last year, we saw during June, during the incarceration of Ousmane Sonko, the opposition politician, the same tactic was used. Mobile internet was disrupted, and then social media. And the government has said this is to prevent the spread of hateful and subversive messages. But our monitoring shows that when you shut down the internet during crisis situations, all you do is deny people access to critical information, silence voices, and you also spread the spread of misinformation. It doesn't prevent the spread of misinformation. It's rather first it's spread because people are restricted with regards to other sources to verify the information that is being shared on social media or on other platforms that they have access to. And so we think this is a deliberate attempt by the government to silence people and to prevent the rest of the world from seeing the exact effects or impact of what they are doing to the Senegalese people. And Access Now and the Keep It On Coalition would continue to push back and to demand that internet access is restored for all people in Senegal and across the globe, where this is becoming a tool for governments to repress voices and silence communities.
Very well. Thank you so much. Let me thank you both for engaging us on this discussion. Dr. Rama Dieng, a political scientist and lecturer at the University of Edinburgh, and Felicia Athonio, a campaign manager at Access Now, giving us the latest on the ground in Senegal. Still